What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise post-game show. The Blazers, for the second night in a row, lose a game by 1 point with a final game-winning shot not happening to fall. Last night, it was CJ McCollum. Tonight, it was Norman Powell after a wild jump ball scramble. We will have you covered, and we will break down this game. But tough times to be a Blazers fan right now. It's tough losing games like this that come right down to the wire. It's even tougher having them happen on back-to-back nights. So I've already seen that chat has been freaking out, and I don't know. I was freaking out last night. Now it's just back to the depression stage in terms of this team, man. Just, oh my goodness, that was brutal. That was tough. That was sad. That was a decent play defensive game. Offensively, the Blazers didn't really get going in this one. You had Dame back, you had Nurkic back, you had all the personnel other than Derrick Jones Jr. and Zach Collins. You're going up against a Nuggets team without Jamal Murray, but the Blazers just cannot figure out how to beat good teams. They can't do it. They're allergic to it. I don't know, man. I mean, it's almost comical at this point, you know? They're playing better, but you had the 1 point loss to the Celtics, you had the 1 point loss to the Clippers, you had the 1 point loss to the Denver Nuggets. I mean, it's tough.
A 1 point win against San Antonio.
1 point win against San Antonio, which was a bad team going into that game, struggling. Yeah, I mean, the Blazers are playing the way that I expected them to as they head into the tough part of the schedule. Everybody was talking about how we're 10 games, 11 games above 500. Well, now we're only 6, and now we're only half a game out of a play-in spot. We're only 3 games, or 3.5 games ahead of 10th. We got matchups against the Grizzlies coming up, who are actually on our heels, and they've missed John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. for stretches this season. So at this point, the Blazers are simply looking behind them, and they are not doing they're not doing well in terms of trying to gain traction on those teams behind them. So Eric, my first question for you is, comparing this game to last night's game, was this just the same exact feelings you have about last night's game, or is there something different in terms of how you feel about this game?
Well, let me just say no. I feel completely different about this game. I feel like this is a game the Blazers absolutely let get away. I mean, they kind of let the game get away last night too, but I felt like overall the effort was good. Tonight, I felt like they just, kicked themselves in the foot several times and wasted an opportunity to beat a Denver team tonight. And I think this is a game they're going to look back on, and it's going to be one of those games that could have defined the season or got them going if they would have played better in this one, and it's pretty disappointing that they didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
but
go ahead.
Let me just say real quick, it's almost as if your opening statement was like someone trying to say that, you know, all those clutch victories early in the season would even out at some point, and that all those wins against our clutch wins were against bad teams, and once you started playing good teams, you don't really have that kind of percentage success against them in the clutch if you don't do the things needed to win. It's almost like people, said that earlier in the season or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is also just an example of, Damian Lillard isn't bailing them out in clutch time situations like he had all season long. You know what I mean? He's first game back from injury, but in the past couple close losses against good teams, he hasn't stepped up and completely bailed this team out, right? And fans get frustrated with that, and part of that frustration is they are so spoiled by how much he generally does it. He had a stretch earlier this year, and it was against pretty mediocre teams, but he was playing insane, absolutely insane in the clutch. If he wasn't playing at insane astronomical levels in the clutch earlier this season, we're a below 500 team right now that is likely to finish below 500 because of the schedule we have coming up. Right now, we're only 6 games above 500. We should have 3 or 4 more losses if Dame just was a little bit more human. You know what I mean? You can point to the Bulls game, hitting 2 threes in the final 10 seconds. You can point to the Pelicans game. You can point to a number. I know there's games I'm forgetting too. You can point to a number of games this season where Dame just completely bailed this team out of a poorly played game and helped them win. Well, now you're going against better teams, and now Dame isn't doing that. I mean, sure, Norman Powell hits that floater, we win. He hits that corner three, we win. But I thought they had a real chance with how well they were defending down the stretch to pull away in this game offensively. And they, for the second night in a row, when it came down to crunch time, Eric, I thought got terrible shot after terrible shot after terrible shot. And sure, Dame can make a 30-footer, but he didn't really have it going. We should be able to, try and get better shots than that, but it just seemed like we were settling for utter crap in the final 3-4 minutes of that game. After CJ McCollum tied the game at 99, that was with 4:57 left. We only had 6 points in the final 5 minutes, Eric.
Yep.
One was Nurkic tipping in a shot, just hustle. One was
Tipped
Dame
it 3 times to get it.
One was Dame hitting a pull-up shot with 1:37 left. So we go a stretch there, 3.5 minutes. The only bucket we get is Nurkic tipping in the ball. The only other field goal was Dame hitting a 2-point shot with 35 seconds left when we were down 3. You know what I mean? So our offense just was terrible. I'm looking at the play-by-play here. Damian Lillard misses a 31-foot 3-point jumper. Norman Powell misses 2-point shots. Not saying the range on that. Nurkic misses tip, makes the tip. Rocco misses a driving lay-in. Dame misses a driving floating jump shot. I'm just reading off ESPN. Nurkic misses a tip shot. Nurkic gets blocked. Nurkic airballs a 25-point 3-point jumper. Dame hits a pull-up shot. Then Dame misses a 26-foot 3-point jumper. I mean, sure, there was some quality looks in there, but I thought there was multiple possessions. Nurkic shooting that three, some of the threes that Dame took, that, I don't know. It was frustrating because we saw bad shot selection lose this team the game in the fourth quarter last night, and then we saw a couple possessions like that down the stretch today.
The one play where Dame missed the three, it was kind of from near the sideline, but a few feet behind the line, contested. So CJ brought the ball up, and Dame started in the corner, and I was excited to maybe see Dame run a play off ball, but then he came off the screen and just ran to the top there, and then took a contested shot that he could have gotten even if he brought the ball up. So I was really disappointed that was a golden opportunity to run some off-ball action we haven't seen before, especially since CJ was looking to pass there in that situation. And it was just really disappointing that they basically just ran a play to get him the same shot he always gets.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't really run a set the final 5 minutes. It just looked like rat ball. It looked like garbage ball. And this is what I was saying all season, and I was told, our offense is, 5th, it's 6th ranked. We're completely fine. And what was I saying? I was saying, A, we've played an easy schedule, so it's going to look a little better than it is. That shows how bad the defense is too, right? But B, against good teams and solid defenses that are well coached, that type of offense bogs down in the fourth quarter, gets stagnant in the fourth quarter, and we don't get quality shots. And we've seen it hurt us in the playoffs time and time again. Well, this is 2 nights in a row that we've also seen that against good teams. And it's not a coincidence. So that's why, earlier this season, I was still talking about our offense and still saying our offense needs to be better. That final 5 minutes, I don't know if we ran a single set. It was a bunch of isolation. It was a bunch of garbage. We struggled to get good shots, and that's the result. You go 5 minutes only scoring 6 points, and you waste what was a pretty good defensive game, Eric. The final 3 quarters, the Blazers gave up 25 points, 22 points, 24 points. You'll take that. You'll take that. But they can't get it done because our offense just goes to crap.
I actually felt like our whole fourth quarter was crap. Denver had their entire bench in at the beginning of the fourth quarter. We failed to take advantage of that. We gave up the lead, and our starters came back in, down, I think, 2. It's just frustrating when you have the players we have on our bench and our roster overall, and we're getting beat in fourth quarters by like PJ Dozier and Austin Rivers off the scrap heap, and like, not that any of those guys particularly played well for Denver, but like they were able to keep the lead even though we had a much superior lineup in the game, in my opinion, and that's just frustrating to me. Those are situations where if you're going to be a good team, you have to increase the lead there. You have to get in a situation where when Dame comes back in, you're talking about being up 5 or 6 instead of being down or tied. And Jokic is on the bench. And Michael Porter Jr., who killed us in the first quarter, was on the bench. Aaron Gordon was on the bench. Like you have to get a lead, or at least like make them pay for having such a crappy lineup out there. And I feel like we didn't do that at all.
Well, let's just be honest. They had players out there that if they were playing for us, you'd have a bunch of people screaming, "Our personnel is trash."
Yeah.
Okay, and they'd also be saying, Jamal Murray's hurt. What do you expect Mike Malone to do? Jamal Murray's hurt. The Blazers are a playoff team and have better personnel. A lot of those people, if they were Nuggets fans, would be saying that and say, "Oh, you're playing PJ Dozier and Austin Rivers off the buyout market. How do you expect the Nuggets to win this game?" Yeah, PJ Dozier and Austin Rivers and Shaquille Harrison lead the Nuggets to a 16-6 run over the first 6 minutes of that fourth quarter. The score was 86-82 at the start, I think it was 84-82. We scored a bucket. Enes Kanter made a 2-point shot. It was 86-82. Then in 5 minutes, going from the 11-minute mark to the 6-minute mark in the fourth quarter, it goes from us leading 86-82 to us being down 99-93. I guess that's a 16-7 run. But when you got Enes off the bench, when you got Melo off the bench, when you got Nas off the bench, I mean, I'd take those 3 over any of the 3 that Denver was running out there. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating because we really had a chance to pull away there. But this team, against good teams, doesn't gain separation in points like those. Even if we're playing a good team with a bad bench, who has a lineup of PJ Dozier, Austin Rivers, Shaquille Harrison, we still, for whatever reason, cannot gain ground.
And I want to make a point about that. But first, there's been some donos. Let's get caught up on those really quick.
Mills Woj, I got it ready. $5 dono. No timeout, but CJ was open. I want to cry talking about that last possession. I guess you live with that shot. I wanted Rocco to drive. I felt like he would have gotten fouled, or somebody could have been running and followed up his miss.
And with that much time left, you never back the ball back out unless you have a cutter and you're just setting them up to pass him the ball. But yeah, that was a bad move. Rocco should have taken it all the way. I don't like to call a timeout. I mean, the ball got kicked forward. Rocco's dribbling up the court. Maybe once he backed out, you call a timeout. But like Mills Woj says, there was CJ streaking wide open. Just missed him for that. But
I don't blame Stotts for not calling a timeout there. I mean, we still got a decent look.
Yeah, I don't like a timeout in a fast break situation. But especially since we know what would have happened if we call a timeout, it would have been Dame or CJ ISO, and like, who knows? I mean, they might have made it, but I think that's a little bit of hindsight, just saying they should have called a timeout there. I understand people wanting to always call a timeout in those situations, but I don't feel like our timeouts in those situations are that great anyway, setting up a play. Like you said, we didn't set Muddy offense up that whole fourth quarter. So, I'm fine with not calling a timeout there. I just think Rocco should have been more aggressive.
Let's just be honest with ourselves. If we call a timeout there and then don't get a good shot off, everybody is screaming at Terry for calling that timeout.
Right, yeah. You know, that's one of those. If it goes in, it's a good play. If it doesn't, it's not. Yeah,
I mean, I think he thought Rocco was going to drive to the hoop, and then he backed the ball out. And, I mean, at that point, you have cutters. You guys trailing the play from 3. I mean, you have opportunities there. So I understand the call not to call a timeout from Terry. Shout out Shaggy Squid, $5 Australian dono. No, Jamal Murray makes this a tough loss, but imagine if the Nuggets didn't trade us Jokic and Nurkic would be an insane pairing. Nurkic off the bench. Well, Nurkic wanted out because he didn't want to come off the bench, but I mean, they like having a good playmaking big behind Jokic so that they can still run the same sort of offense. That's why I wanted Giles to get a chance at some point, because Giles is actually a really underrated playmaker. We just haven't utilized him like that. I wanted us to make it Nurkic's playmaking a big staple of our offense this year, and then I wanted to give Giles a chance because Giles is a playmaking big as well. You know, they had Plumlee. Now they don't really have that. I don't know who their backup center is supposed to be. JaVale McGee, I guess, but he didn't even play. They were playing JaMychal Green or Millsap as the backup center tonight. But yeah, I mean, Nurkic, good playmaking big. They make bigs into playmakers there in Denver.
That's why they traded Nurkic to us for so cheap, because it did not work out with those two, and it was quite evident they couldn't play together, and Nurkic wasn't happy, playing 12 minutes a game or whatever, so it would have never worked out in that situation. I think they should have maybe tried to showcase Nurkic and get a little more value out of him instead of giving him DMPs and making him a problem to where they had to attach a first-round pick, but I'm thankful for that. But Shaggy Squid had another good point since he'd had a dono during the game. It's like, why don't we try going small and pressure the ball a little more when they have Millsap as their center? It doesn't really make sense to have Kanter out there in those situations, in my opinion. Yeah. And I agree with him.
I would have liked to see RHJ out there and run kind of what we did during the fourth quarter against the Clippers yesterday. That would have been cool. I would have been down for that. But I mean, defensively, it wasn't really an issue. So I don't know. That's not really a complaint of mine. It's mostly offensively. And I mean, yeah, sure. Dame 2 for 10 didn't shoot well. CJ's 2 for 7 from the 3-point line didn't shoot well. Norman Powell 1 for 4 from the 3-point line didn't shoot well. But like, the shooting's variable, right? That's why I try to point out, maybe some good things in a loss, some bad things in a win. You know what I mean? Because at this point, we got to win games, but, it makes no sense. Like, it doesn't even matter if we win games if we're going to play a bad style of basketball, because we're just going to get bounced from the playoffs. So it's discouraging to see the way our offense functioned down the stretch this game and the last game, because that's the type of stuff that crushes us in the playoffs where we can't get a good shot off. So, yeah, sure, Dame could have made a 30-footer or whatever, and we would have won this game. But if you're counting on him to make insanely difficult shots in the playoffs when the defense is ramped up a little bit and players are allowed to be a little bit more physical defensively, that's a recipe for losing in the first round of the playoffs. And we get Nurkic back, and we've utilized his playmaking. I mean, he had 6 assists tonight, but it has to go beyond that. And also, we have to utilize it in the clutch, because we went away from it in the clutch. We have to trust it in the clutch. Yeah, he had some great passes. 6 assists, 1 turnover. With some of the passes he threw, those were some passes that were really hard to get through. The fact that he only had 1 turnover is impressive. His passing is top-notch for a center. He should be averaging 5, maybe even 6 assists a game. It should be a big staple of our offense. It's just discouraging that we can utilize it, and it'll work, and it'll get us great shots, and then the final 5 minutes, we go completely away from it and don't utilize it. I don't get it.
Well, I will say, with the exception of the Norman Powell corner 3 last night, that was a good play design. That was a good shot.
I mean, wasn't that just off CJ isolating and driving?
No, I went back and looked at. There was someone, I forgot who it was, but someone did screen Norm's man so he couldn't get to him in the corner. Okay. I don't know if that was designed that way, but it looked like it was designed to get Norm a three-point corner, going back and look at it. But yeah, like, where's that again? I mean, he's not going to miss that every time, or you run it for someone else. We have good 3-point shooters. But yeah, with the exception of that one play, I completely agree with you that the offense is just comically bad, in my opinion. Just bad shot after bad shot, and that's a common theme of this team, especially against good teams.
Yeah. So next donation we got is from one Andrew Miller. What's up, Andrew? $20 dono. He says, I feel like we got clowned, or the odds are against us when it comes to good teams. Low-key want to drop to 11 so we don't even have to bother with a play-in just to get bounced if we play in. Not really, but depressing. And yeah, I mean, We're 0-9. Shout out to Jackson for dropping this in chat earlier, but we're 0-9 against the top 4 teams in the West. I mean, and we're losing those games with Nurkic and CJ. It's not a not having Nurkic and CJ thing. And we've seen that we're usually a better regular season team than we are a playoff team. So if we're struggling this bad, I'm not too confident. The only exception to that is we were struggling with OKC and then we beat them in 5. So yeah, sure, anything can happen in the playoffs. It's just discouraging to be seemingly no better than we were to start the season. I guess the defense is better, but the offense is getting worse. CJ isn't shooting the same. Dame's been struggling. We're still struggling to get consistently good looks. You know, the offense is an issue, and the defense I don't trust. The defense has been better against the Clippers, against the Nuggets. We've been switching things up more, so it's not as big of an issue. I think switching things up a little bit more has helped us defensively. It's just we're not going to be a great defensive team, and if we're not able to score because our offense we don't run stuff and we're stagnant, which you can't run stagnant ISO-heavy offense in the playoffs. It doesn't work. We've seen it. It's been proven not to work in the playoffs. If that's how our offense is going to be, our defense isn't going to be able to make up for that in the playoffs. Our offense has to be top-notch elite in the playoffs for us to have a chance, even if we're improved defensively. And our offense just isn't going to be that with what I've seen lately.
And I'm sorry, I missed who said it, but someone said what happened to the Nurk Dame pick and roll. I thought that was supposed to be so great. And honestly, teams have figured out how to defend it. Not every team can defend it well, but you can't just run it 30 times a game anymore and just expect to have this great offense. It's just like the defense problems we've had with it. It's too predictable, and it's too easy to shut down when you're going up against a good coach or a good team. And it's just frustrating that our coach's mentality seems to be, it'll work. It'll eventually work out. We're just too good at the pick and roll to do anything else, right?
Which is just a silly mindset if you think about it. Because every team has to guard pick and rolls. Every offense runs a ton of pick and rolls. You can't. That cannot be. If that's your staple, that is so basic. I don't even I'm sure chat could come up with a good analogy for that. If you make the staple of your offense the most basic thing in the game of basketball offensively, the most basic, action, you're not creative enough. Everybody knows it. It's easy to game plan for. It gets taken out in the playoffs. It always has.
But
and then we don't adjust away from it. Hello?
On defense, what did Denver run on their offensive end? The last few games, the last few plays, it was pick and roll with Barton when he was guarding when CJ was guarding him, and Jokic, who just popped out and then play makes out of that. So our defense is so bad, we can't stop that at all, and our offense is so predictable that other teams have now figured it out and just jump it, and we don't really have a way to counteract it or anything. It's so frustrating because it's just so hard to beat good teams if you can't stop the pick and roll on one end and you can't run it effectively on the other end, or you keep running it even though it's not working.
Yeah, I mean, we got 14 games left to figure this out. It's just, it's very discouraging to see what's happening right now. Even if, I don't know, the defense is better, the offense has to be top notch. So I can be happy with the defense getting better, but it doesn't really raise my hopes for the playoffs because I don't know, man. If we're running offense like this, it's going to come back to bite us in the butt. That's how I feel. Let's thank, we got 4 donations to catch up on. Mills Woj, another $5 dono, says, we also went up 10 and Kanter gave up 2 3-point plays in a row. I mean, we go up 10 and then they come back. We can never maintain or gain a separation from good teams. I was pretty shocked that we were up 10. It's wow, we're up 10 against a good team, and then comes right back.
Yeah, I think every time we got up 8 or 10, they hit back-to-back threes and cut it right down. And That's so frustrating. And then we run a silly play or something on the other end, or like take a bad shot, and it just adds up to bad basketball when you get a lead. But the thing that the only reason I'm not against playing Kanter is at the same time, like, if without his putbacks, like, our offense is crap. So like a lot of our offense of rating and stuff like that is because he's so good at cleaning up misses and all these bad shots that are taken. He's there to get rebounds. And you saw, particularly once Nurk came back in tonight, outside of the one where he tipped it in, his inability to get offensive rebounds. It's just Kanter seems to have a magnet when it comes to offensive rebounds, and it covers up so much of our lack of creativeness on that end just by him finishing those putbacks. So it also is kind of a double-edged sword, because if you don't play Kanter and you take bad shots like you do, and you're not using the quickness that you have with the smaller lineup to your advantage, then you're kind of just screwing yourself out of getting easy putbacks too. And I don't know what to do there, but
yeah,
like if we ran better offense, we wouldn't need the putbacks. We'd be more efficient, but that's not going to happen. So we almost have to play Kanter on offense just to get those.
Well, I've been more on board with trying something else at that backup center spot than you have.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not going to happen now, but other than going small.
Maybe in the playoffs. I don't know. If we play a team that has a small bench, I would love to throw out a small ball lineup with Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, man, just because what he can do defensively, and if you have 4 shooters around him, it's fine. You know what I mean? Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Nas, Derrick Jones Jr., some combination of those guys, and then play pressure defense, try and get out and run, and that be the identity of the bench unit. You know what I mean? I've said this early in the season. The bench unit needed to find an identity that wasn't isolation basketball, and they haven't done that. And it's going to cost us in the playoffs. Start of the season was just feed Melo, feed Melo, feed Melo. We've kind of moved away from that a little bit. We're a little bit more dynamic with our bench lineup, but there's no identity there. The identity is you're playing Melo and Kanter, and defensively that's just not a good pairing. And then we drop them both and let teams just attack straight at us. That is the identity of our bench defensively. Offensively, it's doesn't get good shots. A lot of isolation, whether it's Anfernee, whether it's Melo, whether it the ball movement isn't there. We don't run sets for a guy like Nas to maybe get a lob or to cut. We don't run those types of sets for Derrick Jones Jr. There is no identity with the bench lineup, and it sucks because we do have talent, but the bench lineup has underwhelmed because it has no identity. I would love to establish some sort of identity that is a pressure defense, get out and run sort of bench lineup. And then, you can rely on CJ playing with the bench to get you some buckets in the half court. That I would love, because defensively it'd be a change of pace from what we normally do. It'd be a change of pace from the starting lineup. And honestly, I could see us going on runs with the bench lineup, because you have the personnel to pressure with Derrick Jones Jr., Nas, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. Those guys can get out and run, can get out and finish. So I would love for that to be the bench identity. It's probably not going to happen this year, but maybe next year. I would love to try and establish, some sort of idea for an identity for the bench's style of play. Some teams, you'll have a different style of play with the starting lineup and the bench. But it seems like, we got some talent off the bench, and maybe this is a little bit on Olshey, but it was just kind of like thrown together without really an idea of what the output would be. And the output is just a team, a bench that has no identity.
It's funny, Tori. When I said earlier, I wanted to make a point, but let's get to these donations first.
Yeah.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Were you?
Yep, that was my point. I was like, because okay, not to bash Dots in another way, but we've never had a good bench, and we've had some we had a Will Barton coming off our bench, before we traded him because he was like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And what did we do when he came in the game? We ran the same boring half court offense. We didn't run the tempo. We didn't push the pace or anything. So it kind of made him useless at times. The same thing, like you can see that with Anfernee Simons, Nas Little, Scal last year. I don't know. There's all these guys that I feel like would be so good in up tempo pace. You had a bench, in 2019 with like Kanter, Collins, Seth Curry, and Rodney Hood. I mean, that's an incredible bench lineup,
Mm-hmm.
and like we didn't really. I mean, that season was our best probably in terms of overall like how we looked. But that was more just those guys like Rodney Hood would come in and hit some tough shots, and Seth Curry was like incredible shooting the three and stuff like that. And but there wasn't like a lot of creativeness to get Curry open threes. It was just like, okay, here's a kick out for a three or whatever, and he'd occasionally hit it. And I always said that season Curry needs more shots like every game. And like I feel like we talk about so much about like how we have all these dunk contest champions and these athletic guys. And Melo and Kanter might not fit with this, but like, I don't know. I feel like most good benches, like when you have a good bench, their identity is either like some sort of super structured, like really designed well plays, or they're just pushing the pace and just getting out and trying to get cheap buckets. And their backup guards come in and pressure the ball on defense and go for steals and stuff like that. And it's all, like you said, energy and effort and those kind of things. Like when you have energy bigs like Giles and the guys I mentioned, Nas and those kind of guys, Derek Jones, if he's coming off the bench, like just pressure the ball and run. I mean, your defense sucks most of the year anyway. Why not be aggressive and go for steals? And you might give up some easy baskets, but we give up wide open shots all the time. So like, why not at least try to get easy baskets going the other way?
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as this. If you're going to play in the half court, you got to get better shots on average than the other team, okay?
Yeah.
The other team might get out and run and get some easy baskets, so you got to get quality looks if you're going to play in the half court with your bench lineup. The problem is we don't do that, okay? If you play in up-tempo, if you don't want to do that, you got to play with energy. You got to lock up on the perimeter, trap things, get out and run yourself, and play an up-tempo game and set the tone with energy. Because there's times that I feel like other teams, their starters will come out kind of sluggish. The bench will come in with a ton of energy and change the complexion of the game simply with their energy. And that is their identity. It's just energy, not even anything complicated, right?
Nope.
But they come in, play with energy, but then their coach also empowers them to play with energy. If you have defenders in there that are supposed to be trapping, that coach will have them trap. We'll have them hedge. We'll play some pressure defense. That lineup will play to its strengths. The problem is, if we had a bench lineup that was like Nas, Derek Jones Jr., Rondé Hollis Jefferson, we'd still drop, I feel like.
Yeah.
We'd still absolutely just drop off the pick and roll. Sure, maybe we trap a little bit, but Stotts has had lineups that he can throw out there in the past, and he doesn't want to move away from what he does. And this goes back to him being too stubborn and not wanting to switch things up enough and that type of thing. It goes back to that. And so that's the thing. That's why it's like, sure, maybe Olshey should have been a little bit better in terms of cobbling together pieces off the bench that could formulate some sort of identity. But even if we had pieces that could formulate some sort of identity, I still feel like Stotts would try and just fit those pieces to what he wants to do with the starting lineup.
That's why I was always against like your getting Will Barton back trade
Yeah.
idea, because like I just feel like it'd go right back to playing in the half court and not utilizing him well. And players like that. That's why I've always been against the Aaron Gordon types for our offense. And
why we were kind of against Derek Jones Jr.
Yeah, why we're against Derek Jones Jr. I mean, like all these things are why. I mean, and that's why. I mean, Covington fits well. I think because I think he's a little better in the half court offense and but like I don't think we're utilizing him well on defense either. But yeah, I just wish, like you said, they'd establish some sort of bench group. And if it's going to be, the Melo show, I mean, that's an identity, but like get him better shots too. That's what I've been saying all year.
Yeah. I mean, let me just say this now, and some people won't like this. I don't want it to be the Melo show next year. Okay. I want Collins off the bench. I want Nas off the bench. I want Norman Powell off the bench. I want to try and find a 3, and Norman Powell off the bench would be better. Obviously, you got to re-sign him, but I want Norman Powell off the bench. CJ is that backup point guard, and then, slot in the 5th guy, just an energy guy. That lineup is built to trap. Collins is a mobile 5, right? Hopefully he's able to be healthy, okay? That lineup defensively should be one of the best defensive benches in the league, and when you got CJ on the floor and you got Norman Powell on the floor, you will be just fine offensively, especially if you get out and run. Like, with the right coach, some combination of guys like that off the bench should 100% be a top 10 second unit in the league, where Dame comes out of the game and we're feeling just as confident, maybe even a little bit more if the other team doesn't have that great of a bench, because our bench should be able to consistently maintain or maybe even stretch out leads or reduce deficits or whatnot. That would be awesome. That would be beautiful. But in a game like this, I mean, you saw that fourth quarter, 16-7 run by a terrible bench unit, like personnel-wise, by Denver. And it's frustrating.
Yep, agreed. So Jimmy Cleveland had a $5 donut, said not trying to nitpick, but I think Stott shouldn't have subbed Nurk out with Kanter because that's when Joker got going in the last part of the game. Yeah, it's tough because I don't know. I think Nurk should have came back in, but yeah, I don't. Jokic had some good plays down the stretch, but again, so going back to the third quarter when we came out, we got down like 6, I think, right at the beginning of the third quarter. And then we had like an amazing stretch of defense, and our offense was clicking. We were pushing the pace a little bit. Norm got like a steal and a breakaway bucket. Or I guess it was passed right to him. It wasn't necessarily a steal. I mean, it counts as a steal, but and like there was one play in particular where I think this was just like, it just kind of happened. It wasn't like a plan. But Jokic turned and CJ like had come, not really double teaming, but he was right there, and it kind of surprised Jokic that there was a second defender there. And like that kind of stuff, I think we need to do more often against elite players like that. Just like get the ball out of his hands. We've been saying that like how many games now? Paul George last night, several times. I just wish we would say, you know what? If Will Barton wants to hit a 3 or whatever in this situation and beat us, that's fine. But we're not going to let Jokic like score or create some offense in that situation and just get the ball out of his hands.
Yeah. And I mean, it's tough with a guy like that because, they cut off him well and he's a great passer. But
yeah, I
mean, at some point you got to do what teams do to Dame and make other guys beat you. Yeah, I agree with that. Next donation was Alvaro. What's up, Alvaro? $5 dono says, in what world should we make Dame shoot a contested 3 down in the 4th versus feeding Kanter when Joker is out? Kanter was so efficient tonight. That's a shame. And I don't know how to feel about that, man. I want to run more motion than just simply feeding Kanter, but against a Millsap or against a Jermichael Green, I mean, feed Kanter a little bit if you're struggling to get good shots. It seems like we've gone completely away from feeding him with the bench lineup, and it's just, we'll feed Melo no matter how poorly or how well Melo is shooting. Sometimes I wish we would take, how much we feed Melo and take a couple of those possessions and feed them to Kanter when he has a mismatch. Now, when he's going up against a legitimate center, backup big man, I kind of want to move away from that stagnant, isolation, post-up type of stuff. But when he has a matchup advantage and you're not able to get good shots with the bench unit, post him up a couple times. It's that simple. But, yeah, we didn't really do that.
Well, we did one time, and Jokic pulled the chair and he kind of threw up some crap.
That was Nurkic. That was Nurkic.
Yeah, that was Nurk. Yeah,
yeah, I was talking about Kanter.
Oh, okay.
He was talking about Kanter, and I was talking about Kanter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, Nurkic. Jokic did pull the chair on him. That was good. I thought Nurkic was going to be able to turn and dunk. He has to work on his balance, I feel like, man. Because if he was just more balanced, I feel like it'd help him so much, especially posting up. Because it didn't seem like... It seemed like he had his balance after Jokic pulled the chair, and he could have just turned and jumped and dunked it. And then he, fell. It was like a delayed fall. So, yeah, he needs to work on his balance, I think. But Kanter tonight, 5 for 6 in 18 minutes. 2 offensive rebounds, so it's probably 2 of those were putbacks. The next sub was, we got to catch up here. You guys are
Kyle Wilson.
Kyle Wilson, what's up, Kyle? The amount of Nurkic slander on Blazers Twitter is disturbing. It's insane how little fans care about how Nurkic helps us on D compared to Kanter. Who's slandering Nurkic? Because he was supposed to be the savior for our defense. And honestly, he's played solid defensively, better than he did in the first, before he got injured. His passing has been top-notch. Rebounding is fine. The only issue is he hasn't been the most efficient. The thing is, though, he's been shooting 35% from 3 going into this game. Now, that's obviously going to drop a little bit. He misses only 3 tonight. But going into this game, he was 8 for 23 from 3, which is 35%. I mean, so he's been efficient from the 3-point line. He's struggled from the free throw line. He shot 51% from 2. Would like to see that be a little bit better, but that's kind of on pace with his, with what he shot in the past 3-4 years from 2-point land. I mean, why are people slandering Nurkic? I don't get it. He doesn't really get many plays ran for him. His passing's been tremendous. I mean, what area of the game are people bashing him in? I'm so confused because I saw some people in chat say Nurkic sucks, yada yada yada. Okay, what has he done that is that bad that people are in here saying he sucks? Because I don't get it. I don't see it. He had an inefficient night tonight, but overall efficiency wise, outside the 3-point line, he's been okay. Defensively, he's been good. Passing, he's been good. Rebounding has been solid. What are people it's like people expected him to be the savior of every issue we had, which he was never going to be, by the way. We tried to tell you all season long. And then he comes back and he's not the savior. Shocker, right? But then because he's not the savior that people expected him to be, then it turns into people being negative towards him and he sucks. And you predicted that, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, this is classic blame it on the personnel, right? Because it's the same thing. I said this last night. If we traded for Aaron Gordon instead of Rocco, people would be saying how much Aaron Gordon sucks and Olshe's terrible for trading for Aaron Gordon. But those same clowns right now are saying, oh, look, Denver beat us because they traded for Aaron Gordon, and stuff like that. And
what did Aaron Gordon do tonight? 4 for 11.
Yeah.
Cool.
He made 2 threes though.
But you got people in here saying Nurkic is all flash, no substance. What in the world are you talking about? What's flashy about him being an effective positional defender? What's flashy about him being the only guy on this team that truly knows how to be the center in a drop scheme defense? What's flashy about him getting... I mean, some of his passes tonight were flashy. They got us layups. That's substance too. It wasn't like he was throwing behind the back passes to the other team trying to be fancy when he could have just handed it to his teammate. It's nothing like that. 1 assist tonight. You have somebody else I saw said, all he does is make mistakes. One turnover tonight, 6 assists. I always said 1 assist. 6 assists, 1 turnover. So 1 mistake, right?
Yeah.
It's just, don't come in here with surface level takes. If you want to criticize him, come up with an actual critique, not he's all flash, he has no substance and makes mistakes. That's surface level stuff. Anybody can say that about anyone. Come up with something better.
And just for the record, for efficiency wise, the 2 tip-ins he missed before the third one tipping it in, those count as missed field goals. So those count towards his efficiency, even though he eventually scored on that possession. And then the only thing I didn't like about Nurk in this game is I feel like right now he should not be shooting the 15-foot long 2-pointers.
Yeah.
And he shot 2 or 3 of those in this game. And I felt like he didn't shoot them with confidence. Based on his free throw shooting this year and the little I've seen of him shoot that shot, which to his credit, like we've been mentioning, he hasn't really shot a lot of those. But I just feel like he shouldn't be shooting those right now with how how his jump shot looks overall. It's kind of weird because, like you mentioned, three, he's been okay. I mean, it's not a high sample size, so it's kind of hard to tell. But I don't know. His jumper does not look as smooth as it was looking pre-injury. It looks like he's gone back to kind of I don't know. It's like form is kind of slow and lazy. To me, it's not like crisp and dialed in like it was back then.
He takes some threes that look crisp and dialed in. I think he doesn't want to shoot those shots as much as he wanted to.
Right.
He's shooting a career low in terms of percentage attempted from 16 foot to the 3-point line. And that's only 3% of his field goals are coming from there. So he hasn't really been shooting that. I think he shot 2 tonight that I counted, where it was just the defense was basically daring him to shoot that, and he's like, I am so open, this guy's daring me to shoot it, and nothing else. It's like he still looked for other things offensively, and then they weren't there. They was just like, okay, I might as well shoot it. And then he missed it. And I think, it not being as crisp and confident form-wise was him just like, he doesn't really want to shoot those types of shots, In that situation, I wish he'd just go at his defender. And he needs to work on, if somebody sags off him when he has the ball at the elbow or, 17 feet away, he needs to work on a couple of moves, a couple of plays where he can attack his defender, okay? And that's part of, I feel like his balance is off this year more than it was. He's never really had the best balance. I feel like he doesn't really try and attack like that because most of the time he ends up off balance and then getting in trouble because of it. That's like the next evolution of his game. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy. If he never got hurt, he'd probably be able to do that by now. And he might be an all-star caliber big by now. I mean, the dude got robbed of when he was playing great basketball and has basically gotten robbed of 2 seasons now. So, yeah, I mean, in that situation, I agree with you. I would rather him attack the rim, Put the onus on the defense to guard him by attacking the rim. They're not going to guard him if he's shooting 17-footers and almost airballing them. And if you attack, you might draw a guy, might be able to make a pass. He needs to start doing that when teams dare him to shoot 17-footers.
And like you were saying, if he's a little bit better with his balance, he could back guys down from that spot too, as long as he goes kind of quick. And he has that spin move and stuff. I don't know. I just think yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about his lack of offense, I don't think it's a lack of offense. I think he's just, he even said it. He thinks the offense overall is selfish, which is 100% correct. And he's trying to personally fix that. So there are times where I wish he'd be more aggressive and try to get to the basket and stuff instead of just standing there waiting for a cutter that never comes sometimes. But overall, it's hard to blame Nurk for that or for wanting to fix that because, I mean, honestly, it needs to be fixed as a team, and he's the only one really trying to do that, in my opinion.
Yep. Next donation we had was Shaggy Squid, $2 Australian dono. If we were signed Melo, I would cry myself to sleep. I think Melo on a different team would be completely fine. It's just like we don't play good enough defense with our starting lineup, and paired with Kanter, it's not the best. And at this point, I want a high-energy pressure defense sort of style with our second unit and a team that gets out and runs, and Melo doesn't really fit that. So I'll be hoping that we sign somebody that kind of fits that style more than Melo does. I think Nas should definitely be a consistent rotational member next year. And, there's probably a team where Melo would fit in well in terms of the style of play off the bench next season. And if he can continue to shoot the 3-ball as he has, we'll definitely have a role on a team somewhere. I want to pursue a young, athletic, energetic second unit next season.
Well, you could start Melo.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I'll cry because, I've already... I mean, we have this weird narrative. I don't see that just all of a sudden going away after this season about the, we're the guardians of his legacy and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's back. So I'm not going to be too upset or cry about it, but yeah, I don't know. I can see why people would feel that way too.
The only reason I'd cry if we resigned Melo is because I'd still have to occasionally read some just ridiculous stuff in chat by a couple different people. That's the only reason I would cry. Good old block boy, man. Anyway, what?
But then we wouldn't have as many people in here too, so it's a trade-off.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll I don't know. We'll continue to grow. We'll replace them. Don't make them think that they're like irreplaceable. You know, they're not even Blazer fans. They're Melo fans. All right, this is Blazers Uprise, so we can replace Melo fans.
We can give Block Boy a little more credit for that. He's actually, I think he would admit he's grown to like the Blazers other than
Nah, look at what he just said. He said, I'm cool with him leaving. I can't take Blazers fans, bro. You give that man too much credit. You give him too much credit, Eric.
No, he wants to root for the Blazers. He just doesn't like the way the fans treat Melo. I think that's
well, he's not going to like any fan base, bro. No matter where Melo goes, he is going to have an issue with people, with that fan base. That's how it goes. When you're a fan of a player, that's like Melo, and you're that much of a fan of a single player, and then he goes to a different fan base, guess what? When that player does bad, fans of that team are going to criticize him. You know, almost pretty much anybody gets criticism, especially if it's, you know, a guy that's not like Dame or whatnot. So, honestly, it's not Blazer fans, man. I mean, this has gone better than OKC or Houston did, I think. So, yeah, it's not Blazer fans, man. You'll find that anywhere if you're a fan of a player.
Yeah, I've tried talking about that before.
Yeah, but you know, it's just those dang Blazer fans. Oh man, those dang soccer moms, as Bill Simmons would call us. Shout out Near012 for the $10 donation. What's up, Near0? If we're not going to run, why not play inside out? Nurkic, Melo, and even Kanter are all good passers out of the post, and it shifts the defense for easy long-range shots, which Stotts love so much. I feel like we kind of tried to, but a lot of times we just bring the ball down and immediately try and post somebody up, and they get pushed out to 15 feet, and then they're trying to attack from there. And it's not like inside out, and we don't really have any sets designed to get a guy with better low post position.
Yep. All it takes is a simple cross screen occasionally between Melo and Kanter, and those two would be so much get so much better position every time. And Kanter would still be right there for offensive rebounds if Melo misses. But, you know, what do we know? We're just two bums on YouTube, right?
Man, just cross screen for the big and then pin down for the cross screener. Simple. Yep. Simple. I don't know why we don't do that. Frustrates me. But appreciate the donation, Near012. And then shout out Jimmy Cleveland, $5 dono, says, Tori, you said it right about why we lost the game. Dame forcing bad threes, CJ trying to create traffic and too many turnovers. Yeah, I mean, the problem is that the way our offense is kind of set up, it requires them to do heroic stuff. You know, we play hero ball. You know, if they didn't try and do heroic stuff, I don't know if we would have scored 50 points tonight. You know what I mean? Like, obviously that's an exaggeration, but we rely on those guys to do so much offensively out of isolation, out of basic pick and roll, that, you know, like, it's frustrating when, you know, Dame's missing 30-footers and CJ's going in traffic and, you know, making a mistake and whatnot. But it's like, we have to have those guys do that because we don't run creative enough sets. We don't run creative enough offense. We don't consistently get out and run. So, I mean, that's kind of what you get in that situation. That's why I'd love to see us with a new head coach. A lot of it is offense. A lot of it is the offensive side of the ball. Just to set something up where those guys didn't have to put themselves in such tough situations, didn't have to take such tough shots in order to make the offense run smoothly. I mean, the first quarter against the Boston Celtics is a perfect example of how our offense should run, where we scored 60 points. CJ wasn't shooting too well. Dame didn't necessarily get hot, but was getting very easy looks and didn't have to work for his shots. And we scored 60 points in the first half against a good defense. That's how our offense should be all the time. The problem is it'll be one half every month at best.
Mm-hmm. All right, who was next?
I know Eric agrees. When Eric's silent, it's because he doesn't know what else to say. Because I just said it all. Yeah, I know. I know. Play-by-play, $5 dono. Okay. Painful last couple of games. 4 of the last 5 have been decided by 1 point. Just haven't been able to close. We're playing our best ball of the season, though. I would say we're playing our best defense of the season, but the bar is so low for that it doesn't even mean a whole lot, because it's still not like we're playing great defense. We're just playing okay-ish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to talk about this, all right? This is the type of game where it would have helped to have Norman Powell off the bench instead of starting. Because the first quarter, Denver scored 35. Then the next 3 quarters, they had 25, 22, 24. They scored 35 in the first quarter because Michael Porter Jr. was being guarded by like CJ McCollum and Norman Powell. And he's like 6'10", small forward, can shoot, and just was launching shots over those guys, and it was basically as if he wasn't even contested.
Well, I don't get why we focus so much on Aaron Gordon instead of Michael Porter Jr. Because we put Rocco on Michael Porter Jr. I mean on Aaron Gordon. I'd almost rather make him beat you than let Michael Porter Jr. get going in that situation.
Yeah, I agree with that. The next donation, Mills Woj, $5 dono. He did that early and got fouled. I don't know. I think that was relevant to the conversation we were having. So, do you know the context behind that?
No, I'm assuming that had to do with posting up someone or... Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was probably posting up Kanter. Shout out Andrew Miller, $10 dono. He says, it utterly baffles me that Stotts cannot have this roster in a top 4 seed. This is up there with the best rosters he's had. Even if he doesn't get fired, the talent he has now can't get much better. And yeah, we had more talent than the Nuggets on the floor tonight, I think, and still couldn't get the job done. And I've felt like we're underachieving a lot of games recently. You know, it's like we say we're playing great, our best basketball of the season, but we just got blown out by the Hornets, who are missing their top 2 guys. We barely beat the Spurs, who were 4-11 going into that game, and we beat them by 1 point. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like we're playing the best basketball of our season. It's hard to say, because we're still not playing good basketball, in my opinion.
Real quick, I stand corrected by Block Boy. He thinks we're worse than OKC, and Houston fans showed Melo nothing but love, apparently, and never thought he was a problem at all.
I mean, we showed Melo nothing but love for the first 10 games. Then what? Give it 2 seasons, man. Those guys switch up like crazy, those Houston fans. But I mean, I hope Melo goes back to Houston. He can win 15 games a year and maybe get back to averaging 20 points per game. And you know, good for him if that happens. I don't know, man. Next donation we had was Shaggy Squid, $2 Australian dono. Block loves OKC and Houston. Melo was loved there. I mean, I would love for Melo to play good consistently.
I'm sorry, but that's just wrong. I saw so many OKC fans blaming him for that entire season. Yeah, and then they trade him and
that's what I remember too.
Finish like a game or 2 better the next season, and lose in the first round of the playoffs again. Got the same distance they did with Melo, and all those fans were quiet after that. So you're absolutely misremembering that. And then people absolutely blamed Houston, the problems on him in Houston, even though that had, in my opinion, nothing to do with him. Harden got hurt early in that season, and Melo was supposed to be the savior or whatever, but he wasn't that type of player anymore. And he got blamed for everything there. So I just think that's a little bit of time has passed since then, and you're not really remembering it correctly.
Yeah, I agree with that. But let's move on from the Melo talk. We talked about Melo. Yeah. Crazy. Play-by-play, right. Another $5 dono. Says, I don't understand why Rondé got benched either, especially on a night where Derrick Jones Jr. was out. And, I mean, I thought he was going to play tonight, but it's kind of hard to say who he should have played after. You know, Melo 5 for 9. I just said, let's get off the Melo talk. And, I mean, but Melo played solid, shot the ball well, 5 for 9 from the field. Kanter, Little, Simons, it's hard to really figure out who he should have played over. It's just like a situation where, like, Rocco's going to get 34 minutes, and Powell's going to get 34 minutes, and Dame and CJ are going to get 37 minutes. So there really wasn't much minutes to go around, especially with Nurkic playing 29, kind of off his minutes restriction, it seems like.
It is weird, though. You think Hollis Jefferson starts 2 games ago. Yeah. And then he plays big minutes last night, pressuring the ball with some success and, got some offensive rebounds, stuff like that. I thought he played well last night. And then Derek Jones Jr. is a late scratch in this one. So you would think he would get some minutes, but yeah, like you said, it's hard to say where those minutes should have came from. But I absolutely think they should have played small at some point and just tried that lineup, but they didn't really go for that tonight.
Yep. One more donation until we're caught up. You guys have crushed it tonight. Shout out Mike B, $5 dono. Dame and CJ don't trust the offensive system when it really matters. They settle for contested shots. The best teams take high-quality shots when it matters. I agree with that. It seems like they try and take over the game in the final 5 minutes, and Dame has shown that he's able to do that. But I'd rather get Dame better three-point looks off a good ball movement and motion. He could take over the game that way. It's not saying he shouldn't take over the game. It's that we should try and get him better shots than maybe a contested 30-footer or whatnot. But, I mean, there isn't much of the offensive system is them doing that for the most part. So I wouldn't say that they don't trust the offensive system, because the offensive system, sure, we're utilizing Nurkic's playmaking more since he's come back from injury. That's nice. But the offensive system is still Dame and CJ mostly having the ball on the perimeter and making something happen.
If we have a good lob threat in the game, they stand at like the elbow, which is like the corner of the free throw line. Dame starts at the block, sets a back pick for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Dame sets a good screen, and the player, whoever that is, Nas or Anfernee or whoever you want to, Derek Jones, just name the person, curls to the basket, they either have to switch that or pay attention to the lob, or the lob's going to be open. And if they do pay attention or switch, then you get a switch on Dame without having them be in a situation where it's easy to double team him off a pick and roll, because the whole point of the pick and roll is usually to get the switch you want. So Dame's either going at a big guy or you get a little guy on whoever the screener was, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, just doing stuff like that, in my opinion, in those situations, to get a switch for Dame or an easy basket if they don't switch or whatever. I just wish we'd be more creative to do that instead of just having to rely on a Nurkic Dame pick and roll.
Yeah, I agree with that. Shout out Apples. We got another dono. $5 Australian dono says, I was in school and I saw this and couldn't focus anymore. Endless pain. That's because he's in Australia, so it's morning time over there. Noon? I don't know what time it is over there in Australia. I don't know how much different the time zones are, but I appreciate the donation from Apples, man. Yeah, I couldn't imagine being in school and having to deal with Blazer games like this. Yeah, so I'm happy to be in America for that reason and that reason alone. But okay, what else do you want to talk about from this one? What have we missed so far?
We talked about we pretty much touched on all my notes. Michael Porter Jr. in the first quarter, the way we defended him wasn't good. The third quarter stretch I liked a lot. And then the fourth quarter I thought was horrible all around. But yeah, that's pretty much all of it.
Yeah. I also wanted to talk about Simons, because I thought he had another good game tonight. 3 for 4 from the 3-point line. He's been playing good. I wonder if he's going to be a consistent member of the rotation. As I said on last stream, it's going to come down to Nas, Derek Jones Jr., or Anfernee is going to have to lose minutes. And it was Anfernee for a while, but he's come back into the rotation, and let me find his game log here and see exactly when he kind of got filtered back into the rotation. He's got filtered back in the rotation 4 games ago. In the last 4 games, he's played 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 19 minutes, 15 minutes. In those 4 games, he is currently 10 for 22 from the 3-point line. So almost 50%. He had an 0 for 4 game against Charlotte, but the other 3 games, 4 for 8 against San Antonio, 3 for 6 against the Clippers, 3 for 4 against the Nuggets. So he's had some big shooting games, which is nice to see. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, because if we won, I was going to point to the fact that Simons had 9 points on 4 shots. Until Powell missed his last 2, he had 17 on 8 shots at one point. And he still had 17 on 10, which is still efficient, even though he went 4 for 10 from the field.
And let me just say the reason for Powell's efficiency, he got to the free throw line 8 times, made all 8 free throws. So he's shown that he's able to get to the line at a much higher rate than somebody like a CJ or an Anfernee.
And, Covington and Carmelo both had 12 points on 9 shots, which I'll take every time. And Blockboy brought up a good point about Rocco, though, which is I also forgot to mention. I don't know why I didn't put this in my notes, but I heard this. Someone actually told me, like, what are you supposed to do? Post up Robert Covington to get him shots? It's like, well, look at tonight. He cuts a bunch, and it worked almost every time. You're telling me, like Blockboy says, you can't do that with Nas, you can't do that with Derek Jones, you can't do that where was that in the second half out of Robert Covington cutting to the basket? And then people say, like, oh, well, that's up to the players to cut. It's not Stott's fault they're not cutting. It's like, yeah, right. You think if they were supposed to cut more often, that they're just not doing it? That's so dumb, and I hate that the spontaneous offense and like the like leaving it up to the players to make their own decisions on what the hell they do. That's so dumb. Like, no coach would ever say, oh, you know what, this whole game, you just go stand here, and if you want to cut, you cut. If you don't want to, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just do what you want. Like, no coach says that. And honestly, if it's not a priority that we're cutting, which it obviously isn't, because even going back, every form of personnel we've had, we've lacked cutting, and we've been I mean, they measure cuts to the basket. That's an analytical thing. We're always last. So there's no way you can tell me that that this team is just refusing to cut and the coach doesn't it wants them to cut, but they aren't doing it. And it once again, we see so many times where either attacking the basket off the dribble with those little dump passes or just straight cuts to the basket by our wings is so much more effective than just spotting up for three and maybe getting a shot or maybe not.
Yeah, I hate when people try and, like, how do I explain it?
Make the offense more complex than it is.
Well, I do hate that. But it's like people will try and act like Stotts isn't responsible for things that don't go well with the team that he's completely responsible for. He's responsible for the way the team plays on both sides of the floor. He's responsible for that. The thing is, if it was going well, people would be saying, oh, look at Stotts. He's getting these guys to move the ball, and he's getting these guys to cut, and yada, yada, and look at that set. It's all so good. Good job, Stotts, right? But then when the team doesn't do that, it's almost like people try and diminish his responsibility in the team not doing that, and I can't stand that. Do you want
to? It's always like, because how many times did we hear that last year? Oh, the players are just like too dumb to understand how smart Stott's system is. Like, that's like the biggest like dumbest excuse you can get. It's like you can just excuse anything that happens on the court because Stotts is so brilliant that his system doesn't work with crappy, dumb players. And I'll always say to this, if that's how you think, then the offense is terrible. Like, that is not a good coach if you have to have like the smartest players or the perfect personnel for it to work. You have to be able to fit your system a little bit, tweak it to maximize the talent on your team, not the other way around. Your talent shouldn't always be needed to maximize your system. Yeah.
Basically, the players shouldn't define a coach. A coach should define his players, is the way I've always looked at it. You know, and this is a thing in high school even. You'll have coaches that just try and mold their players to fit their system, whereas the best coaches will mold their system to fit their players. And I dealt with that as an issue in high school. Like, more than 50% of the set plays for me was me posting up. And I was a perimeter-oriented post, basically. But he was used to having slower bigs that couldn't shoot as well, that type of thing. So, But he still wanted to run his offense the same way. He was used to having, the season before, he had a 6'8" post threat that he just fed the ball to down low. Then I kind of got put in that position my senior year. All those plays ran for me, and I could still score on them, subtle flex there. But you put me out on a perimeter in high school against some of those slower bigs, and I was scoring at a much higher rate. But he didn't do that often because he still liked his system. So, I mean, I experienced that personally in high school. I know there's, somebody out there that'll scream, why are you talking about your basketball experience? You averaged 2.2 points per game in college, so obviously you're trash. All right, there's somebody out there saying that. But, I mean, that's, you'll see that at the high school level. You'll see that at the college level. You'll see that at the NBA level. The better coaches fit their system to their players.
Yep.
Anyway, glory day talk is over.
Honestly, you don't have to change it that much. Just throw in some wrinkles for some of your players that get them going instead of like, oh, Nurk doesn't adjust to the pick and roll in the playoffs. Like, well, you should be helping him adjust to that. Like, or be running something to get him the ball in a different position then. You shouldn't be saying, oh, Nurk has to, like, single-handedly somehow be a different player once they show a different defense or something. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. So let's catch up on donations. Shout out JM. He has a $5 dono and a $2 dono. His $5 dono says, I went to school on the East Coast, and listening to Blazer games was how I made myself stay in the library late at night. Fun times looking back. Yeah, I couldn't imagine Blazer games tipping off at 10 p.m. local time, or even 10:30 p.m. Our streams would be starting at like 12:30 or 1 in the morning. So shout out to those of you who are on the East Coast and listen to our post-game streams. You got hours like mine. Let's just say that. Appreciate the $5 donation from JM. I got the $2 donation from him before I get to Cameron's. The $2 donation says the day Stotts gets fired. I promise a $50 super chat, and that stream will be something else when that happens. What were you about to say before that? I feel like I cut you off with that second dono.
Oh no, it's good.
Alrighty, and then the $10 dono, Cameron Weaver. Says, has been a rough second half of the season for Blazers fans. This loss really sent me back into my chair in disappointment. Have enjoyed the streams nonetheless, and we appreciate that. We always try and put an enjoyable product out there, no matter how the game goes, no matter how depressing it is. And some people don't like it, because some people don't like us ranting or being negative and question our fanhood for it and stuff like that. But we
foam at the mouth.
When you foam at the mouth, Eric. Oh my goodness. The thing is, I think 95% of the people in that stream was loving you foaming at the mouth. End quote. Inside jokes, by the way, that we got inside jokes that we drop on here once in a while that you guys just aren't what's the word? Privy to. But appreciate the donation from Cameron Weaver, man. Appreciate it.
Honestly, these streams, I mean, I'm thankful for you guys watching and for Tori allowing me to go on this journey with him because, like, I don't know, I feel so much better, like, going to bed. I absolutely wear my heart on my sleeve. I get emotional, wins and losses affect my life. I know that's a horrible thing. But I'm caught up with this team and I'm like, I don't know, outside of my family and stuff like that. Like, I mean, this is like part of who I am as a person, as a Blazer fan. And if I didn't have these streams to just kind of like get it all out, and I was bottling it in and getting angrier and angrier after each game and ranting at people in like Twitter and forums and stuff, but not really having much of an outlet other than, stupid arguments on there. Like I don't know what my level would be like after these last two seasons. And hopefully we get to a point where it's like 2 years ago where we're all enjoying a successful Western Conference playoff run, or maybe even further. I mean, it would be amazing if we could all go on a journey together and celebrate a championship, and how great that moment would be for all of our lives. But like, honestly, other than, getting married and the birth of my children and stuff like that, I can't think of a better moment in my life. I know that sounds really sad, but then to see my Blazers hold that trophy up.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of diehard fans that would make complete sense to them. People that don't understand sports would be like,
right.
Seek help, I mean,
right.
But diehard fans are crazy like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Everybody's telling us to watch the Dame interview because they want me to rant. Huh? I don't plan on watching the Dame interview. You guys can tell me what he says. I don't really plan on watching the Dame interview unless you guys are really, really, really want it.
Please watch the Dame interview. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that stuff.
I'm only watching one interview. I'm not watching 2 interviews. Take your pick. Take your pick. People have been saying the Dame one. OMG, you have to see it. He said we didn't make enough shots. So you guys just want me to react to him saying we didn't make enough shots, or is there something more than that?
Does he say something about Stotts?
I mean, if that's really the only quote from there that we should react to, I mean, if you're saying watch Dame, I guess I'll watch Dame because you guys have crushed it with the donations tonight. Sure, we'll watch Dame. But we got to catch up on those because Near Zero 12 dropped another one. Says, let's swoop David Vanderpool for head coach. And makes me kind of nervous getting somebody who's been an assistant under Stotts and who's been here before. But I would take it at this point. It would keep Dame happy. All the Fire Stotts people would be happy. It would just be frustrating if we hired him and then he coached exactly like Stotts and we had all the same issues. That's what I'd be worried about. And then you'd get people saying, you guys just hate whoever's the coach, don't you? That would be the conversation next season if that happened. But I mean, I'd be down, man. It'd be a breath of fresh air for real. So Dame interview, I guess, Eric.
All right. And so just to comment on what Alexander is saying, I'm guessing this is going to come up, but he's saying all big players who want to win would see that a bad coach would get fired. No, they don't. That's not true. Like a lot of LeBron, that's such a recent thing. There's always been coaches that star players don't think are the problem. And if you're an elite player like Dame, you're going to blame yourself every time. You're not going to blame the coaching. Because Dame would sit here saying, I can do better than 9 for 23. That's not Stotts' fault. That's my fault. I need to shoot better. I need to play better, or whatever. And that's just Giannis thought Jason Kidd was the best coach ever. That's just a recent example. But outside of LeBron just firing coaches left and right, I mean, there isn't a lot of players that hate coaches and want them out or force them to get fired in those situations.
Yeah. So I got the Dame interview up. Let's watch it since you guys want to. I will be democratic today. Let's watch Dame. Listen to Dame. 12-minute interview? Oh boy. Oh no. So this will probably be the last thing we do in this stream.
All right.
I don't know. I probably won't pause as much. I'll pause for something notable, but I'll let you guys just listen to it. Anyway, I'll play it.
How do you feel physically? You came out red hot, but then you cooled off a bit. Were you impacted at all from your hamstring at all, or any type of fatigue from coming back? Or were you well rested?
I wasn't affected by my hamstring. I felt pretty
very
fresh.
Quiet.
I think over the course of the game, I just, when you sit out a while and you come back and you play high minutes, I feel like it wears on you. I don't, in my mind, I'm not thinking about it, but when I think about missing short and some of the possessions, I probably wore down a little bit more than I would typically, but I felt pretty good.
Orlando Sanchez, KGW.
Hey, Dame, what are some of the big takeaways from this game? You're always so optimistic. Where do you see the silver lining in a game like this?
I mean, it's our we had a game against Boston. We had a game against the Clippers, and then tonight where it was
99% of people are
Why are there ads in the middle? Anyway, 99% of people are living in delusion. Apparently, that's what that ad said. Anyway,
we had opportunities. You know, if
you
the
watched
shot,
this on my
if
ad
CJ
free
hits his
account.
shot last game. We talking about that.
The ads are kind of funny.
If Norm's floater goes in tonight, we talking about that. I think because you know we competed. You know, I thought we defended pretty well. I don't know what they had, 105, 106. I don't think that's a bad defensive game at all. I just think you know we didn't make shots down the stretch. You know, at the level that we needed to. I know I had some looks that felt good coming off my hand that didn't go in. You know, we just didn't make the shots. And down the stretch, they got the whistle. They made the shots. And we still got, you know, came up with a big defensive play and had the last shot. We just missed it. So.
All right. Is
You know, I
that
think
what
we
everybody
continue to
wanted us to respond to? Question mark? Chat? Eric? is that what we were supposed to respond to there?
It says no, keep going.
Okay.
defend the way that we've been, focus on our defense and getting better in that area. And I feel like the offense will come around, but it needs to come around with our defense like now. You know, we can't say eventually or nothing like that. It needs to come around now.
Well, yeah.
Krista Salta, Sport DNA.
Let me know if you want me to pause
How
it at any
frustrated
point,
for your
Eric.
teams to lose 3 games in the last shot, and what do you need to improve detail-wise?
I mean, and I don't think it's a team in the league that's won more of those games than we have. So I think, you know, it's not really saying, oh, we need to improve. You know, I think overall, obviously, we need to improve. But in those moments, that's usually when we are at our best. You know, if we've done anything well this season, it's been perform in those last 5-6 minutes and, you know, win those close games. You know, but the thing about that is it balances out. And, you know, we had our fair share for the first, you know, two-thirds of the season. We won our fair share of them. And I think the bounce just hasn't gone our way in the last 3 games that is going that way.
Well, you're playing better teams, so, I mean.
And there's reason.
I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what to say to anything that he's saying right now. It's just like, oh, things haven't gone our way. We've missed shots. I mean, what? I don't understand. Are we still waiting on the thing that would get me ranting, or?
Yeah, it's the Aaron Fentress question coming up.
Okay.
The second one. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Reasons behind that, you know, that we could, I guess, give ourselves a better chance at not even being in that position. But the games that do come down to that, I think we've won our fair share. You know, the last few that we've lost, you know, I feel like we've competed and we've defended. We just haven't been able to, you know, to knock down the shots that we typically would.
Casey Holdall, trailblazers.com.
Damian, how would you say you guys have done with playing with a lead? Because tonight you guys lock them up for the first half of the second quarter and end up going in to the half down 3. You go up 10 points in the third quarter, end up only up 3 by the fourth. And it seems like there's just a lull there when you guys get up even by like 5 or 6 that it kind of the bottom drops out. And I'm curious what you're seeing out there.
Game of Runs.
Hi, my name
Another
is Tim
ad.
Sykes.
Hi, Tim Sykes. Get off my screen, please.
I mean, we got a bad habit of working hard and putting possessions together and putting stretches together, and then we relax. You know, I think the best teams, I always say, they're able to sustain it. You know, if it's a bad possession, it's like they have a good defensive possession, they give up an offensive rebound, or, you know, somebody gets hit on the screen and it's a miscommunication. Happens sometimes, but for the most part, the good defensive teams, they're able to sustain that communication and that focus on the defensive end. And even on the offensive end, when the good teams play a certain way, and, you know, they're having success, they're able to continue that, you know, without thinking that, you know, oh, it was easy, or we can go away from it, or, you know, we can still get it done if we try something different. You know, they sustain that level of focus, offensively with execution and defensively with the principles and the scouting report and things like that. And I think when we build up leads, that's when we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're communicating, we're playing physical, we're taking the challenge, we're rebounding the ball. And we build a 10-point lead or 8-point lead, and then we feel like we got room, and we just relax, and you can see it and you can feel it sometimes where it's like, well, 2 minutes ago that they wouldn't have got that cut. 2 minutes ago we would have came up with that rebound. So it's like that urgency and that focus, it can't waver. When it's up and down and you playing against good teams, they'll make you pay for it. They'll get themselves back in the game like tonight, and then you'll have yourself in a game that could go either way. And, tonight didn't go our way. But, like I said, if we were able to sustain what we did in the second quarter and the third quarter, maybe that lead is 14 or 16. And now, it's a lot harder for them to fight their way back into the game later in the game. And we pull it out. But, I think that's what it is, just being able to sustain it. And we just haven't been able to do that.
I mean, that's honestly a really good answer. Honest, to the point. Says exactly what the problem is, that we all know is the problem. Says it, they can't waver like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Good answer. Better answer than Stotts would give.
Yeah, it's just tough at this point of the season. I mean, everything he says is true. It's just, well, why don't you have that urgency? That's been my problem all year. You say like, oh, we need to come out with urgency, and then it takes you getting down 10 points in a lot of games to like show some fight or play some defense. Same thing, you built leads against crappy teams and then you let up and then you hear, oh, they just wanted it more or whatever. Like, it's getting kind of, I agree that's the answer. It's just getting kind of,
it's just like, why is that a problem? You need to address why to fix it. Yeah,
it's frustrating that, I mean, yeah, I guess you could correlate that into there's no accountability when those things happen. It's just like, oh, well, we didn't really do anything. On to the next game. Well, we almost lost. We almost won if we just made a shot at the end or whatever. But yeah.
Yep. Anyway, maybe Fentress is next. I'm kind of anticipating this Fentress question.
Next game.
Jim McCord, coin.
Dame, what do you think is the key to developing the consistencies so that there isn't a wavering in energy or focus in those stretches?
Is that the question you wanted, Eric? Is that the question you wanted asked? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're listening to it at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like 5 seconds.
You honestly do a good job of doing that. I forget you're playing at the same time. I wish I could play that audio just through my headphones to you. It'd be easy, but yeah, I mean that's the question that's needed to be asked. AJ McCord, shout out to her. She has gotten better. Her questions have gotten better and better as the year have gone on. I will always give media members credit for for asking good questions, because last season all the questions were terrible from everybody all season long, it felt like. So I will give props to reporters for asking good questions. So props to AJ McCord, because this is the exact type of question that I wanted asked of him, and I'm curious to see his answer.
We pull it out, but I think it, and we just haven't been able to do that.
Next game.
I mean, I'll play it again. Just
Jim McCord, coin.
Dame, what do you think is the key to developing the consistencies so that there isn't a wavering in energy or focus in those stretches?
I mean, I'm not sure how to answer that. It's, we've played, 58 games? We got 14 games left. I mean, at this point, it's like, you're not just going to magically find it, You're not just going to, in 59th game, turn into a team that puts 48 minutes together and do it perfectly. And in reality, I don't think no team does it for 48 minutes, but I think we could be better at sustaining it to finish a quarter, like we'll play good for part of the first quarter and then it'll, be a run. And then like Casey said, we'll start off the second quarter really well and then close the lead or take the lead like tonight at the half. And then we'll play well in the third quarter, and then we just don't finish the quarter. So at least if we're able to.
Managing your money
oh my
is typically.
Goodness, I gotta start watching this on my ad-free account. I'm watching this on my Blazers Uprise account, and it has ads on it. But
not like tonight at the half. And then we'll play well in the third quarter, and then we just don't finish the quarter. So at least if we're able to not have such a drop-off, if it's like, all right, we have a bad 2 possessions, and then we tighten up. And then we have a 5-minute stretch, and then we have a bad possession where it's a miscommunication or a backdoor or offensive rebound to a 3. If it happens in between, then I think, we doing a lot for ourselves. We're making up for a lot of things that we struggle with. But like I said, it's not going to be perfect, but we could do a much better job of not having such big drop-offs. It's like it's either high or low. It's never just in the middle or, we just doing a good enough job, even if we're not playing great. It's always like we either up 12 and we're doing great, and then the team calls a timeout and we come out of the timeout and it's like the lead is erased to 2 in 2 minutes, So we just got to be better about that. I think that's the thing that we need to focus on when we find ourselves in those situations where we playing well. We
coaches are good at timeouts.
Here we are. Like, what are we going to do?
I mean, we got to focus on it. Well, you've been talking about all year. How have you not already been focusing on it? And if you have been focusing on it, it's not really getting better. So obviously you got to try and do something else. I don't know, man. Like, he doesn't really have an answer for how they're able to do that. It could be something as, honestly, like the main answer would probably be, we got to hold guys more accountable. I got to hold guys more accountable as a leader. The coaching staff has to hold guys more accountable when, we come out of timeout near the end of a quarter and there's, and we don't have the energy we should. You know what I mean? Like, now that could be taken as throwing his teammates under the bus, so I get why he doesn't say that. I mean, I think that's the answer. I don't know.
See, my problem is, we won a bunch of games when Nurk and CJ was out, right? And everyone was feeling themselves because they were 10 games above 500, and they were doing it without those guys or whatever. But instead of being like, yeah, we've won these games, but we're not playing the way we need to if we're going to win come playoff time or against the tough stretch of our season, they were like, oh, we're winning. Like, we don't have to change anything. We're like, once we get Dame or CJ and Nurk back, we're going to be so good to add them onto this success we're having. And this is the same thing we've said after all those close wins against bad teams, that if you are a good team, you are not happy just winning games. You are constantly harping on these things so they're not an issue when we get to game 58, and we've already addressed these. Even if we were the best team in the league, we're still locked in and like improving throughout the season to this point. But instead, all we hear during the season is, oh, the offense will be fine. It's always good. Like, we don't have to like change anything. So then when we go in these lulls and don't score, it's like, well, we just weren't hitting shots or whatever. Like, we had a bad turnover or whatever. It's never like, well, we should have been working on our offense so it was like locked in and not having these problems right now. Mm-hmm. And like Eric Olson says, that's a champion mentality. And the good teams, I'm sorry, but you will never be a contender if you are always constantly saying, oh, you know what, we'll just try harder on defense and it'll magically get better. No, you have to like actually do different things and implement new things throughout the season so that by this point you don't have any of these problems. And we talked about this several times about how our conservative mindset towards all this stuff just makes it seems like it's lazy, but it just makes it so hard to give full effort or look like you're an energy team when you're constantly like sagging off and not being aggressive in your schemes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Still waiting on the Fentress question. still very anticipatory for that because people were saying I was going to rant during this interview, and we're 8.5 minutes in. I haven't ranted yet, so here we go.
We got to make our minds up in that moment, and we got to address the fact that we struggle in those moments.
Dwight James, NBC Sports Northwest.
Damn, I'm curious how you feel about you guys are using fewer pick and rolls. You're running, a little different stuff than you did before. That was really pretty successful. How are you feeling about how that's going and the development of that style for you guys?
I think since I've been here, primarily since my fourth year when we had the first roster turnover when LA and everybody in Batum, everybody left. Me and CJ being ball handlers and scorers and playmakers, we played a lot out of pick and roll. And we've kind of looked to that. That's been like our bread and butter. And, I know Coach likes to pass the ball. He likes ball movement. We always one of the teams at the bottom of the league in assists, even though I think we do make the right plays.
Wait. He said Coach likes ball movement? What? And then he immediately says we're like always last in the league in assists. It's like, wait, so what? Huh? I'm confused. I don't know, man.
Because we played a lot out of pick and
I'll
roll.
just play it. I'm confused. I rewind a little bit. I'm just
kind of looked to that. That's been like our bread and butter. And I know Coach likes to pass the ball. He likes ball movement. We always one of the teams at the bottom of the league in assists. Even though I think we do make the right plays, and some teams just pass the ball 6 times to start a possession when it's really, it's really not attacking. It's just like the ball go from side to side to start a possession. We've never been that team.
What do you mean you've never been that? That's exactly you. What in the... Okay. Well, here's the part where I guess I'm going to rant, Eric. How many times have we seen CJ run up, you pass the ball to CJ passed the ball to you, you skip to CJ and he's on the 3-point arc and then they run a pick and roll. What are you talking about?
And we're still last in passes per game, too.
Huh? Oh, bruh. What? How is that not you? That's like literally the only time you guys do pass the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, don't do a bunch of meaningless passes just to run a pick and roll, but be more productive with your passes.
Well, see, this is also the problem when you're with someone for 9 years and you don't think there's a different option because he's been told that they can't run an offense like Golden State does, right? So now it's they just probably do passes and stuff that don't get the ball anywhere, but that's not true at all. Like a lot of those teams that pass a lot are also good assist teams, so I don't know.
Yeah, no.
But we're also last in potential assists. So when he says like, oh, I feel like we make the right passes and do the right plays, that's a lot of BS too, because we're last even if you want to count all the potential assists.
Yeah, I mean, bruh, like, what Golden State will do is Steph Curry will bring the ball up, pass it to Draymond Green, top of the key, go away from the ball, run some sort of split action. Somebody will cut, Draymond will maybe hit the cutter, and somebody will rotate over. That guy will kick out to a guy at the 3-point line. Somebody will rotate to him, but rotate too hard. That guy will pump fake, drive the lane, kick out back to Steph, who's being screened by another guy. Like, all those passes are productive. That's good ball movement. That's not them, passing the ball around the arc while everybody stands. That's what we do. So I 100% disagree with them. I know he's in the system, but I've watched the system for years. I've seen the system for years. I've broken down the system before. Back when I was a True Blazer fan, I broke down, footage because he does highlights on his channel. So we were able to use footage. I don't agree with it. I don't see it. Maybe this year we've gone away from that a little bit more. I don't know. But, there's so many plays where we just waste time with passes above the arc that don't accomplish anything.
And like Trevin says, this is one of the reasons to be worried about hiring a David Vanderpool because, it seems like unless he just comes in with a totally, I didn't like Stotts' system. Like I want to do it this way or whatever. It's going to be too similar, I think.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want, Nate Tibbetts or something. I want a fresh voice. I want a breath of fresh air. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The air is kind of stale at this point. So, anyway.
Kinda? Jeez.
That's me being very, very nice.
Very nice, yes.
Eric, do you really want me to tell it how it is? I might get demonetized. No. I am dying right now. I'm dying, okay? Because I'm choking on the air. The air is like the air we had last fall, when the fires were raging and you couldn't breathe outside. That's what the air's like right now around this organization for me. Is that better? Okay, cool. Hopefully that was a little more colorful of a picture and a little bit more accurate. Let's watch the rest of this. We got 3 minutes left, a little under 3 minutes. Still waiting on Mr. Fentress.
Possession when it's really,
for once,
it's really not attacking. It's just like the ball go from side to side to start a possession. We've never been that team, and it's just been more of an emphasis on us doing that, and I think that's what we're trying to do. I think just trying to do what's asked, and that's more movement and more screening and creating action for each other with screens and passing. So I always said, if that's what we're going to do, then we do it. We'll fall into pick and rolls, and we'll have our chances at that too. But I think it's been obvious that we've been playing that way because it's been more of an emphasis.
Good.
Time for one more coming from Aaron Fentress.
Here we go.
Jamie, you mentioned all the inconsistencies in that 58 games. How can you just magically turn it on? Is that on the players, or does Coach Stotts need to do something to get the players to not have these lapses?
I mean, we NBA players,
bruh. Okay, let me just say how terrible of a question that was before we even hear the answer. Bro, why would it be on the coach? Provide some context instead of sort of just like a catch-22 gotcha question. You know what I mean? Does Terry need to hold you guys more accountable? Does Terry need to, sub guys out if they start to, lapse a little bit effort-wise? If he phrases it like that, I'm saying good question. But Fentress is too lazy to provide proper context. He asks the worst questions. He's literally Mr. Derrick Jones Jr., why do you yell when you dunk sometimes? He's the dude who has that question. It's frustrating. It's frustrating, man. Give him a better question than that. It's almost like you're trying to paint... Okay, this is my pet peeve. When reporters ask a question to try and elicit a sort of answer that fits their narrative.
Right. Because...
That's exactly what he's doing.
I'll tell you right now, Dame is 100% going to back his coach. He is not going to say anything bad about him. He's going to say it's up to the players to execute, all that kind of stuff. And honestly, this is his only answer here. He cannot just say right now, come out and say, you know what? Coach Stotts sucks and he's the problem. Obviously it's him. What do you want me to do? We're just waiting until the end of the season to fire him, right? There's no way you can freaking answer that. So, So this is a situation where, he's going to answer it in a way to defend his coach, and people are getting mad about it, but there's no way he can say anything other than it's on him and the players to execute. And that's what that just goes to your saying that's a bad question.
Bro, it would go viral.
He set it up that way.
Yeah, it would go viral if he was like, no, actually the coach needs to help us play harder. Bro, what do you expect him to say? So not only are you asking a question that you already know what type of answer you're going to get, and it's not going to be anything other than him saying, we got to play harder, and that's about it, and he's already talked about it for 3 minutes, and he's just going to repeat that stuff. It's, oh, God. Fentress that's just terrible, man. If you're going to bring
he does that with Stotts too.
Yeah, just provide the proper context. Even though he's going to answer like that, if you're going to ask that question, at least provide the proper context. I should be the one telling him this. He's the one who's been in the media for years. I'm a dang YouTuber, okay? We are YouTubers, Eric. But we know how to phrase a question as a media member better than a lot of people, which is absolutely sad because it's not something that's hard to do. I'm not sitting here saying, we just know how to ask the best questions. No, we just have common sense. We have common sense, and a lot of media members just throw stuff out there That is ridiculous. That's why I give somebody like an AJ McCord or a Dwight James or a Jason Quick props. That's why I give those people props when they ask good questions, because some of the questions are terrible. It was worse last year. It's gotten better. And I feel like praising people for asking good questions will motivate them to continue to asking good questions. So, I'll say it on Twitter. I'll say, Jason, good question tonight, or something like that. You do that. Like, yeah, praise people. Praise these media members for actually doing their job, which is kind of sad. You'd hope they just do their job anyway, but it's almost like people need encouragement like that. Ventress, though, on the other hand, is just brutal, man. Just terrible question, honestly. But, I mean, I'm ready to hear the answer, Eric. Are you?
It's going to be totally watered down, and he's going to take responsibility and praise Coach for all his hard work. So I already know what he's going to say. But
I wonder if he addresses the people that want Stotts gone or something like that, and that's why everybody was telling me to listen to it. But here we go.
If that's what we're going to do, then we do it. And we'll have our chances at that too. But, I think we've been...
So I'm trying to get to the Fentress question so I can hear this crap again.
Time for one more coming from Aaron Fentress with the Oregonian.
Where's Jason Quick tonight?
Jamie, you mentioned all the inconsistencies in that 58 games.
I don't know if he asked the question.
Just magically turn it on. Is that on the players, or does Coach Stotts need to do something to get the players to not have these lapses?
I mean, we NBA players. I think you have coaches for a reason. I think our staff, our assistant coaches, Terry, I think they do a great job in preparing us to go out there and get ready for games with knowing players' tendencies, knowing what sets they like to run, knowing what they've done in the last 5-6 games, knowing who's playing well on each team, knowing what they hurt us with the previous time we played them and the things that we had success with against them. I think they do a great job with that. But
AKA everything I did in high school, Eric. From my high school coach, who was also a marketing teacher, not a coach of a professional basketball team. Some people be like, oh, all that stuff, that's why Stott's a great NBA coach. Bro, that's basic stuff. That's basic stuff. Right? I mean, oh, goodness. I'll listen to the rest of this, though.
Great job with that. But I think, like I said, we professionals. And, we've all been in this league for some time. And we've all been on successful teams. And we know what it takes. So I think the only way to correct it this late in the season, obviously our coaches, like I said, they're going to do what they do. They've always done it. But at this point, it has to come from us. I think obviously it's things that our coaches will address, and they'll, try to be creative and give us different things to help us improve. But at the end of the day, it comes down to our desire. How bad do we want it? How much do we want it to be better? How much do we want it to change from what it's been?
Apparently not much. Not bad enough.
That's when you'll see it, when we collectively as a group decide, this is where we got to improve now. It's not going to go from whatever we ranked in defense to number 10 or number 5, but, we could be much better than we are. So it's up. I think it's more up to us as players than, the coaches. They can't go on the court and save us.
I mean, I don't expect him to say anything different. That's the end of the interview, by the way. I don't expect him to say anything different, but it's just like, oh, once we decide to, that's when you'll see it. Bruh, you've been talking about it all season long. How have you not decided to yet if that's all that it took? You know what I mean? That's just athlete talk. You know what I mean? Stotts could hold these guys more accountable. I mean, that's the type of answer you get from a player. You'd probably get that from any player, but it's just especially one whose coach doesn't seem to hold players accountable enough. You think Dame is going to sit out here and say he needs to hold us more accountable, or he needs to be harder on guys when they're slacking or something like that? No, he's going to take the blame. He's going to say, yeah, we, the players, need to play harder. Of course he is. Yeah. Of course he is. I mean, but when they start going on lulls, call a quick timeout. If we have a lull coming out of a timeout, don't wait until the end of the quarter. Call a quick timeout. And make it a point of emphasis in that huddle. And be hard on the guys. If you have a guy that falls asleep and just completely doesn't pay attention defensively and lets a guy backdoor cut him and get a layup, maybe take that guy out for a couple minutes, and sub in a guy who has more energy or something. You know what I mean? The problem is I obviously the players hold some responsibility with that. I don't think they hold all the responsibility, Eric, because there's you got to hold these players accountable for that type of stuff, and it seems like they really don't.
Here's what I think. Okay, so when you say we're NBA players, right? It's yes, that's true. Each player on this team is an NBA player who has skill set and can dictate what he does on the floor. But the problem is basketball is 5-on-5. And so if you aren't all on the same page, which they obviously are not, especially on the defensive end, and that's why they are not good defensively, because they constantly have breakdowns on the defensive end. Now, that's gotten better over the last few games, but outside of Charlotte, I guess. But it's 5 players. So, yes, Dame could go into a game thinking, this game, I am not going to do this. My teammates are not going to do this. But if you guys aren't all working towards the same goals, aren't prepared in the same way, aren't getting ready to do this, to know what the other person is doing in this situation or what they're supposed to do in the game plan, yes, you could say, hey, Dame, so, Austin Rivers has hit 17 out of his last 25 threes, so I want you to go over the pick on them. But that doesn't account for what Norm Powell said, is that the coverage assignments off ball, he doesn't get those in Portland like he did in Toronto. So it might be individually you're telling all the players the right thing, but the job of the coach is to get all 5 players on the same page and to play together. And that's a communication problem, like Eric Olson says. And those are the type of things that a coach can absolutely influence. And yes, individually, all these players can step up and not have these lapses and stuff like that. But until the coach gets them all into a scheme and it's all working together as a unit, those kind of effort and stuff will look like it's not working anyway. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But Dame's right too. I mean, he does need to step up, but he's not recognizing that the coach has responsibility to get him to be on the same page with his teammates, and he doesn't recognize that that's what's causing the defense to be bad.
Yeah, it just seems like mentally the team is disorganized in what they need to do. You know what I mean? Everybody will say effort, but nobody really has an idea of how to get a collective group effort consistently, right? And that's the thing. You can have one guy say to himself, "Oh, I'm gonna make sure I keep giving effort throughout this game." Doesn't make it collective, and it's like a collective problem. I mean, I don't know. If it's on the players, then okay, Dame, figure it out because you've been talking about it all season. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I got. Yeah.
But honestly, okay. Let's say there's this magical world where all 9 or 10 players that play in a game, for whatever minutes they play, they give 100% execution, 100% effort, 100% energy, all those meters of those metrics for determining that. There's no way to measure that. But let's just say in a perfect world, we had a game when they came out and the entire 48 minutes, every player that was on the court was 100% in those areas, right? Mm-hmm. If we run a drop scheme against Steph Curry, none of that shit matters, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if we had 100% execution and 100% energy because Kanter is in the right spot, but he's 10 feet behind Steph Curry shooting a wide open 3, right?
Gordon
that matters nothing. It doesn't matter.
Gordon has a comment that goes along with that. He says, when you say effort, it's easy to say, but if your coach doesn't put you in position to succeed, people are just running hard aimlessly.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it has to be... Yeah, I mean, and we don't run defensive schemes that elicit effort. We had pretty good defensive effort when we were playing an aggressive defensive scheme with energy, with players that gave energy. When we had RHJ out there and Nas out there, we played with a ton of energy during the second half of the fourth quarter for that Clippers game. So it's like, if running a more aggressive scheme and having players like that in makes it so that we're playing with a ton of energy. I mean, it's not totally in the player's control then, because it matters who's on the court, what defensive scheme we're running, and honestly, coaches can hold players accountable, and Stotts, that's not really Stotts' MO. So, I mean, with Tom Thibodeau or Greg Popovich as a coach, I don't think you'd see this team have such lulls where they fall asleep and don't give effort and all that type of stuff. You'll still have lulls. Every team has lulls. I mean, we came back 16 points from against the Spurs, but we had a better lineup on the court. It wasn't because those guys' effort was questionable. All season long, our effort has been consistently questionable. With Greg Popovich or Tom Thibodeau as a coach, I don't think that would be an issue because those guys hold players accountable and are good motivators. Players like Stotts, I question the people that say he's a good motivator, though, because people always said, oh, Stotts could always get the most out of his players in terms of effort. The guys always play hard for Stotts, right? And honestly, I wouldn't have even disagreed with that. Yeah. But now, not this season. That doesn't apply this year. So, I mean, what changed then? That's my question.
Well, honestly, it started last year, in my opinion.
Well, yeah.
And, I mean, I've mentioned this before. It's been a while. But to me, it changed the minute we beat Denver in Game 7. And it hasn't been the same since. All, like, the coach, the GM, the Damon CJ, it was like, okay, we made it to the Western Conference Finals. We proved we can get out of the second round. We did that, and then they get swept in that series, and they've been a pretty lackluster regular season team since then. Get beaten 5 games last year in the playoffs. It just feels like that moment when they won Game 7 and celebrated. It was like all the weight and all the grit and the underdogs of them. It was like, oh, we finally made it, and no one can ever take that away from us, which is fine. Like that's good. But I felt like ever since that moment, they all got fat extensions, and it was just like that was their career right there. And I just feel like ever since then, the effort level and some of these details and their overall attitude towards not letting this stuff be acceptable has changed ever since that moment. And I will never change that moment. That was a great moment in Blazer history. But I just feel like they haven't recaptured that because all that season, what did you hear? Oh, we are mad we got swept by the Pelicans. We are never going to let that happen again. This year it's going to be different. They fought and got the 3rd seed in a very tough West and actually performed, like kicked the crap out of OKC. And now we can argue about them having horrible game plans as well. But like they brought it that season. They had a different attitude that year. And once they made the Western Conference Finals, they didn't have that same we're not going to allow what happened to us the year before happen again. And I mean, I even said it Game 1 of Western Conference Finals that year, and I've never wavered on that I felt like ever since that moment, our attitude changed a little bit.
Yeah. It's almost as if the team thought okay, we got the furthest we could possibly get.
Right. Yep.
Which, and I've said this before, I feel like we don't have the mindset of a team trying to contend or a true contender. And I've said that multiple times, and that fits into it. And it's based on that. Because the attitude since then has been almost like, well, we're 58 games in. It's not going to change overnight, but we just got to decide to, and then you'll see consistent effort. Bro, what? if you could you imagine a contending team saying that at this point in the season? No, or a team trying to contend. If there is a team trying to contend and they were losing a bunch of games because they couldn't get consistent effort for a whole quarter, that team would be pissed. Those players would be pissed. It wouldn't be something where you're almost just brushing it off like, we just got to decide to do it, and when we decide to do it, then you'll see it. No, that would not be the attitude of a team trying to contend. But that's the attitude of this team. That's the attitude of this team, And I don't even think it's necessarily a damn thing. I think we need a head coach whose attitude from day one is we should be contending. We should be playing at the highest level. We should be performing at the highest level with the talent we have on this team. And anything below that is unacceptable. It means it's a failing season. And that, if you have a head coach like that, the players, I feel like, will start thinking like that too. If the head coach, start singing like that, rub off on Dame, rub off on other players. But it's almost like they think they've done the best they can do, and they made the Western Conference Finals, and now it's just, oh, well, we've won a lot of games. I mean, you heard Dame say, we've had successful seasons. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you define success as making the playoffs, sure. But contending teams would not say this is a successful season if we make the playoffs and lose in the first round. And that'll be interesting if that happens to hear what the players say. And I feel like it could reflect that mindset. And maybe some players will come out and be honest and show that that wasn't necessarily their mindset and that they regret it. Because a guy like Nurkic, I hear him talk, I feel like he's more dissatisfied with the team's performance than maybe a guy like Dame, a guy like CJ, a guy like Stotts. And that's the problem. Stotts isn't dissatisfied.
Well, to prove my point even further, Nurk was not a part of that run, so he still has that chip saying, like, well, those guys did it without me. I still want to prove that we could have been better if I was part of that team, so that goes along with that theory, I guess. But this is why I hate what team could have won a championship with this roster question, because that's like the worst possible attitude to have, in my opinion. I want a coach who believes in his guys and doesn't accept, oh, we went 500 on the road. That's good, right? We won two out of 4. Like, that's what you want to do on the road, I want a coach that's like, no, a good team, we would have been 3-1 or 4-0 on this road trip. We should have won all 4 of these games, and we're going to go back to the drawing board and figure out why we're not 500 or not like better than that on the road. I know, like, since then we've been better on the road than that, but we lose a game to Minnesota and it's like, oh, it's hard to play a team twice in a row. It's like, well, no, like, I want a coach that's like, no, it's not acceptable to lose to a crappy ass team like Minnesota and stuff like that. And it's not that I think a different coach would guarantee us a championship. I'm not stupid. Like, it's still going to be near impossible to win a championship. But like, certainly having a coach that has that mindset would lead us to not be this soft and not be like questioning our effort levels and our execution this late into a season.
Yeah. Basically, an easy way to summarize things is the attitude should be, why can't we? Not, why can we? Because that's the attitude. Why can't we? What head coach is going to take this team to a championship? Nobody.
Yeah.
Why could he take us to a championship? Because he can't, Instead, it's like, well, why can't we win the championship? But the thing is, you ask that question, and a bunch of people are giving you a bunch of reasons why they, like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, it's, if you ask that...
Because O'Shea sucks.
Like, I don't know, you could have a mindset of, like, why can't we? In, like, a positive way. As in, basically, we should. We should be able to contend and pursue a championship. But if you ask the question, why can't we? You'll have a lot of people saying, well, this and the personnel sucks, and you can't do anything with this backcourt, and we don't have Aaron Gordon, and, the bench, and yada, yada, this and that, and excuse on the personnel, and blah, blah, blah. For me, all season it's been like, why can't we contend? If we play a good style of basketball, I think we can. And then you have all those people say, oh, you're crazy, man. You're always so negative, but this team definitely can't contend, and you're crazy for thinking they possibly could if they played a good style of basketball. But you're the negative one. That's what I've heard all season long. Kind of a contradiction. It's an oxymoron. It's ridiculous. But, I mean, that's basically the attitudes of you have that split attitude in the fan base, and the attitude from the team, you don't see it from Nurkic, but you see it from other guys. And it emanates very much from Terry Stotts when after every post game or every game, he's sitting there in a post game interview saying, well, they just made shots and we just missed shots.
Yeah, and for those in the chat saying Dame can't win because of his size or the best player can't be that size, well, Steph Curry. That's
exactly what I'm talking about.
He's the same size as Dame, and he had good teammates, but you can't change the goalpost. You said what team wins with their best player being that size, and Golden State did it. So and then what's up, Stacy? How you doing tonight?
What's up, Stacy?
I don't like this question, but I'm gonna read it anyway. She says, "Is Dame time dead?" And no, it's just
it's sleeping right now. It'll awaken.
Okay. And for those calling it lame time now and all that kind of stuff, I've seen several of those comments.
I will unfollow you if you say that, okay? Point blank simple. I will unfollow you on Twitter if I follow you and you say that.
Yeah. here's the deal. Okay, Dame was putting up numbers that like are historically better, like way better than any person ever in the clutch this year.
Yeah.
There's no possible way any human being could maintain that for an entire season, especially against better teams. We all knew it was gonna even out. Even Dame said that tonight. And yes, he's been playing bad, but obviously he's not 100%. And I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm totally not. But this is why for 2 years now on these shows I've been harping about not playing him 12 minutes at a time and not, playing when against like Detroit and stuff like that, not playing him 36 minutes and things like that. That's the kind of thing I don't. Dame, yes, he should have taken better shots tonight. He should have been better overall. But like he's not going to hit a magic three every single game. It's just not possible to do that. And he's still, percentage-wise, like one of the best clutch players of all time this season, even with his recent struggles over the last few weeks. So to say it's like he's done or washed or anything like that, or it's lame time, it's dumb, because it's just not possible to be that perfect.
Yep. I just
and that's why we've said so many times to make it easier on him so he doesn't have to shoot a contested 30-footer like he did in this game or whatever to win a game. Like, get him some easy buckets or an open three off ball or something. It's just so this is exactly the point we've been trying to make the entire season.
Yep. I just quote tweeted Fentress. I feel like I might delete it. I don't know. I don't go too hard. Quick? I said you've uploaded a clip saying who is to blame for the Blazers' inconsistencies, especially on defense. The players or Coach Terry Stotts. Here is Dame's take. And I said, that's a terrible question. It's hilarious that you expected him to say anything different. Even more hilarious that you're trying to use this as a gotcha clip. Should have just asked Dame why he yells when he dunks.
That's funny.
Anyway, screw it. I'll leave it up, man. I just am not. What?
I think you have to block Zach for his response.
Bruh, Zach, delete. Bro, I wasn't playing around, man. My mods, bro, you're better than that. Oh God, of course he goes and does that just to troll me, man.
Block Boy, you're crazy if you don't think every fan base turns on their players when they have bad games. It happens with everyone, and it's such a like a vocal minority. It's dumb. I mean, yeah.
Zach deleted it. Good job, Zach. Jackson said bye. Come on, man. Don't troll. Don't troll on my post. Call it out, Aaron Fentress, man. That's when you're like, yeah, get him, or some sort of support. But you do you though. I appreciate you for it, regardless if I hate it or not. You're right, Trevin. I can't bring myself to unfollow Zach, man. Zach gets special mod privileges. But yeah, so anything else you want to talk about from this one, Eric?
Not from the game, but I do want to mention, in case anyone missed it, that Jason Quick had a wonderful article about Norman Powell today. I strongly suggest anyone who hasn't read it yet go seek that out. It's just really good insight onto who he is as a person and his upbringing and just how he approaches life and basketball and all that kind of stuff. So it was a tremendous article, and in that article it very clearly details how the Blazers are doing everything possible to make that guy feel welcome and to want him to like Portland and stay here. And I don't think they would do that if he's a short-term rental. Now, Norman's can just leave anyway, so it's not a case where we can re-sign him no matter what. But I think it's very clear reading that article that we are going to do everything we can to make sure we at least go after him and put on the press to get him to stay in Portland.
Yep.
And that made me happy that we're at least and honestly, kudos to the organization for I mean, they absolutely went the extra mile with this guy to make him feel at home, to make his experience here special, and that's just a really nice thing by the organization to do. And for all the people who say that our organization is a bunch of car salesmen and a-holes that have no personality and aren't people persons, like I encourage you to read that article and see what the organization did for that guy when he came here, just to make him feel special. And message Gordon on Twitter if you don't have a subscription, but you didn't hear that from me.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, obviously we're not going to impress him on the court, so we got to impress him off the court. At least impress him somehow. I don't care how, I guess, if it keeps him in Portland, because we need to resign him. So anyway, that's going to wrap up the stream. We went super long today. 2 hours, 13 minutes. We made up for a shorter stream yesterday. The Blazers end up losing this game by 1. 4 out of their last 5 games have been decided by a single point. The Blazers have lost 3 of them. Against the Clippers, against the Celtics, against the Nuggets. It would be really nice to start pulling out some of these games against good teams, but the Blazers are really struggling to do so. We will continue to have you covered with the most real analysis out there. That's what we strive to do. Leave a like on this video. There's 140 people in here, 88 likes. Let's see if we can hit 100. There's some of you have not liked the video. That's the easiest way to show us some love, show us some support. So if we could hit 100, that'd be cool. Because you definitely got a couple people in here that try and bring us down with the dislike button. But the likes are at a good point. Also the dislikes, I don't think they do much. 3, 4. Like, I think it has to be more than 50% dislike to really do a thing. But the more likes you get, the better it does.
Those guys.
I mean, if they want to get together a Mellow Stan army, I'm sure Block Boy would be leading that. Then that's fine. But thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Hope you have a good day tomorrow. We'll be live again tomorrow around 3:30, 3:45 p.m. Pacific time with Blazers Uprise Live. We'll have picks against the spread. We're getting into the stretch run of the season for that. Things have bunched up and gotten closer, so that'll be a fun segment. If you don't know of our second channel or aren't yet subscribed, there is a link in the description to Blazers Uprise Live. If you went and subscribed, that would mean a lot to us. Other than that, follow me on Tori at Twitter Jones.
You started your own social media.
Yes.
Tori.com.
Yep, Tory.com, new social media. It's supposed to be the better alternative to NBA Twitter because NBA Twitter has gone down the drain the past year. But follow me on Twitter at ToryJonesYT. Eric is at HoopsJock. Our name tags have our Twitter tags in them. The channel is Blazers Uprise YT. All the Twitter links are in the description below. Lots of links in the description below, including our Discord as well. So go check out the description. And with that, as I always ask you, Eric, is there anything you want to end off with?
No, just appreciate everyone for tuning in. Great dialogue from chat tonight. And also the people killed it with the donations, so thank you for that as well.
Yeah, it was a fun stream despite the loss. I appreciate it. I hope all of you have a good rest of your night. And until next time, as always, peace.